Hello, here is the news at this hour from Socialist TV. I am Olaide Amosu. Here are some major headlines. Makinde's administration responsible for spread of COVID-19 cases at ISON, SBN. Federal government screening 19 Nigerian firms for COVID-19 drugs production. INEC plans to start electronic voting in 2021. Nigeria's GDP rose by 1.87% in first quarter, NBS. WHO suspends trial of hydroxychloroquine for COVID-19. Thailand begins COVID-19 vaccine trials on monkeys. Arsenal approach Coutinho. FIBA releases guidelines for basketball's return. Now the news in details. Oyo State chapter of the Socialist Party of Nigeria, SBN, has blamed the Seyi Makinde-led administration for the spread of COVID-19 cases at ISON Experience in Ibadan. The party revealed this in a press statement signed by its secretary, Comrade Ayodeji Adigun, on Monday evening. The party also expressed concern over the rise in cases of COVID-19 cases among workers of the company and the current administration in the state for its protection of profit of private companies at the expense of workers. The statement read, "Since the report of the first COVID-19 cases among workers in the company just less than 2 weeks ago, the total number of recorded cases in Oyo State today, Monday 25th of May 2020, has risen to 240, with 150 cases from ISON alone." The secretary also noted that it's unfortunate that in almost 1 year of the Seyi Makinde-led administration, no practical step has been taken to address these indecent working conditions at various companies and industries in Oyo State, noting that instead, like its predecessors, all its policy actions has clearly shown that its main interest is to ensure that the profit interest of the billionaire owners of big businesses are always protected, even at the expense of lives and safety of workers in both public and private workplaces across the state. To ease the burden of his people in Afigio local government area as the coronavirus pandemic bites harder, a 2019 House of Assembly aspirant, Oladipupo Diekola, has donated relief materials. At the event, which held at Jobele headquarters of the council, food items were distributed to people who came from the major towns that form the council area. The caretaker chairman of Afigio local government and Afigio West local council development, as well as party leaders, were full of praises for the young politician. Owunikoko, while speaking at the event, said the gesture was his own little assistance to his people. The Federal Ministry of Health is screening 19 local firms for the production of herbal drugs that can possibly treat or cure COVID-19. The firms, it was learned, made many claims ranging from the outright cure for COVID-19 to the treatment of the symptoms. It was learned that the 19 firms had met with the leadership of the Ministry and the Department of Complementary and Alternative Medicine. The firms have, however, been asked to submit their samples to the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, out of which 3 would be picked and recommended for funding. The Minister of State of Health, Senator Olorunmimbe Mamora, confirmed this during a chat with newsmen on Monday. He said a meeting was held with the leadership of NAFDAC, the National Institute for Medical Research, the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, and the other relevant stakeholders. Mamora said the ministry asked interested herbal manufacturers to tell the government what their challenges were. The minister said some of them complained about funding as well as possible theft of their patent. Mamora said concerns over how to identify patients for trial were also discussed. When asked if the drugs were for the outright cure of COVID-19 or just for the treatment, Mamora said it was too soon to say as discussions were still ongoing. He said NAFDAC would test the herbal solutions to see if they're safe for human consumption. Nigeria's gross domestic product grew by 1.87% in real terms in the first quarter of 2020. The National Bureau of Statistics disclosed this in its Nigeria's gross domestic product report for the first quarter of 2020 on Monday. This performance was recorded against the backdrop of significant global disruptions resulting from the COVID-19 public health crisis, the sharp fall in oil prices and restricted international trade. In the second quarter of 2019, Nigeria's real GDP at basic prices grew by 2.12% on a year-on-year basis. Growth accelerated further in the third and fourth quarters by 2.28% and 2.55% respectively. The steady increase in quarterly growth resulted in an annual growth of 2.27% for 2019, compared to the 1.91% in 2018 on a year-on-year basis. Compared to the second quarter of 2018, the performance in 2019 indicated an increase of 0.61%, while the third and fourth quarters were 0.47% and 0.17% higher, respectively, than the corresponding quarters of 2018. For the quarter-on-quarter assessment, real GDP growth was minus 14.27% compared to 5.59% recorded in the preceding quarter. In the quarter under review, aggregate GDP stood at 35.65 trillion naira in nominal terms. The Independent National Electoral Commission on Monday said it would engage with the National Assembly and other stakeholders to explore ways of responding to the rising cost of conducting frequent by-elections in Nigeria. The Commission premised its decision on the Supreme Court's judgment, which states that votes belong primarily to political parties, as well as its records, which show that only in 10% of all by-elections since 2015 did the party that won originally lose the election. INEC also said it would pilot the use of electronic voting machines at the earliest possible time, although not in Edo and Ondo State, but work towards the full introduction of electronic voting in the major elections starting from 2021. The Commission gave these details in its 17-page policy document on conducting elections in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, signed by its chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, made available to journalists in Abuja. According to the document, the Commission would ensure the use of electronic and non-contact means to recruit ad hoc staff, beginning with the governorship elections in Edo and Ondo states scheduled for September 19th and October 10th, 2020, respectively. The Commission also said it would reduce to a minimum interstate movement of staff, including ad hoc staff, for off-season and by-elections to reduce the risk of transmission of coronavirus. National Vice Chairman, North Central of the All Progressive Congress, APC, Suleiman Wambai, has said that direct primary remains the best way to select APC's governorship candidate in Edo State to avoid a repeat of what happened in Zamfara State, where its candidates won elections in 2019 but were disqualified by the court. Wambai, who stated this yesterday while speaking with newsmen in Lafia, also explained that there are 3 available ways for candidates of the party to emerge in any state. According to him, candidates can emerge through consensus, direct or indirect primaries, depending on what the party considers as the best option in a given state. The leadership of the party at the state level has been empowered by the APC constitution to decide which mode of primaries to adopt in their state, one by declared. Moving on to the foreign scene, Thailand is conducting tests on Makinde monkeys as it races to produce a cheaper alternative coronavirus vaccine. It hopes will be ready by 2021. A top researcher said this on Monday. More than 100 candidate vaccines are currently in various stages of development around the world, at least 8 of which are in clinical trials with humans, according to the World Health Organization. Oxford University researchers are considered the forerunners in the race, starting clinical trials last month on a version based on a different virus that causes infections in chimpanzees. Dr. Suchinda Malaibijanond, director of the National Primate Research Center of Thailand, who oversaw Saturday's vaccine injections into an initial group of 13 monkeys, said she hoped a made-in-Thailand vaccine would be cheaper than an European or American drug. The testing phase on the Makinde monkeys came after trials on mice were successful, researchers said. Africa has so far been spared the worst impact of the coronavirus, but World Health Organization is worried the continent could face a silent epidemic if its leaders fail to prioritize testing for it. The World Health Organization's Director General, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, said Africa was the region with the fewest diagnosed coronavirus cases, accounting for less than 1.5% of the global total and just 0.1% of deaths. The World Health Organization Regional Director for Africa, Matshidiso Moeti, said some countries have taken measures to curb the disease at a high economic cost. Those measures meant the pandemic was having a milder impact so far than some models had predicted, Moeti said. A clinical trial of the anti-malarial drug hydroxychloroquine in coronavirus patients has been suspended amid safety concerns. The drug has been touted by President Donald Trump, and he even revealed he took the medication for 2 weeks as a prophylactic. But the World Health Organization said it was concerned after a study from The Lancet published on Friday revealed higher mortality rates among COVID-19 patients who took the drug. Therefore, researchers said they're suspending the use of hydroxychloroquine and the WHO's Solidarity trial, which is to evaluate the safety and efficacy of 4 drugs and drug combinations against the virus. The executive group has implemented a temporary pause of the hydroxychloroquine arm within the Solidarity trial, while the safety data is reviewed by the Data Safety Monitoring Board. The World Health Organization Director General, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, said on Monday. Moving on to the exciting world of sports, the International Basketball Federation on Tuesday published recommendations on returning to basketball in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. The recommendations, which were published in the English, French, and Spanish languages, are titled Return to Basketball, Restart Guidelines for National Federations. The basketball-specific risk assessment tool has also been produced in collaboration with the World Health Organization. FIBA is the world governing body for basketball and is an independent association formed by 213 national basketball federations throughout the world. The body, which is based in Mainz in Switzerland, is recognized as the sole competent authority in basketball by the International Olympic Committee. FIBA's guidelines are primarily for national federations seeking direction and advice on the restart of basketball activities and competitions. Arsenal have approached Philippe Coutinho's agent over a move to the Emirates Stadium. Mikel Arteta is set is keen to bring the Brazilian to North London from Barcelona, where he's expected to be surplus to requirements once he returns to the Camp Nou from his loan at Bayern Munich. Chelsea are reportedly keen to bring the former Liverpool playmaker back to the Premier League, while the Gunners are believed to have made first contact with agent Kiadora Bichain over a deal. The Brazil international has spent the season on loan at Bayern Munich, but the German champions are unwilling to make the deal permanent for 120 million. Barcelona are looking to offload several players this summer in order to fund new signings, and Coutinho is among those made available. And with that, we've come to the end of the news. A recap of the headlines. Makinde's administration responsible for spread of COVID-19 cases at ISON, SBN. Federal government screening 19 Nigerian firms for COVID-19 drugs production. INEC plans to start electronic voting in 2021. Nigerians' GDP rose by 1.87% in the first quarter, MBS. WHO suspends trial of hydroxychloroquine for COVID-19. Thailand begins COVID-19 vaccine trials on monkeys. Arsenal approach Coutinho. And FIBA releases guidelines for basketball's return. As the world continues to ease out of the lockdown, please follow all health advice and precautions. Together, we can stop the spread of COVID-19. The news was compiled by Mobola Badikale. I am Olaide Almost. Good day, and thank you for watching.